So in my best efforts to contribute to the war on information, I'm going to read you guys something I wrote about absurdism, which is an ideology, and how it relates to censorship, and hopefully I'll post this as a video response to an Alex Jones video where he talks about the apparent censorship of Google and YouTube. First, I just want to say that there's a nihilistic portion that is the ultimate conclusion drawn from the concept of absurdism, and I'm going to omit that because I don't think it's necessary, and it, quite frankly, would detract from my point. So here we go. Absurdism suggests that the determination of the absurd, and conversely social norms, is subject to the opinions, feelings, impressions, philosophical, scientific, and religious establishments, and the subsections of thought, granted normalcy or accepted philosophy of everyday encounters or conceptions, collectively comprised by the majority of persons in a given society. Therefore, the value of items and ideas are not inherent but allotted. That is to say, that it is of great concern to take any philosophical, ideological, political, or religious idea at face value without proper research, investigation, and thorough examination. The very fundamentals of evolutionary theory present a requirement for challenge, adaptation, novelty, and dynamic thought, in contrast to suppression, regression, blind acceptance, and ultimately stagnation. The Middle Ages evidence the fact. Repression of information translates to societal regression, disillusionment with morality, disproportionate value placed on the material, poverty, violence, bedlam, chaos. Understanding the ramifications of censorship holds no exclusivity. Any history book will clearly outline the implications of the powerful drowning the voice of invention and development, and only a modicum of logic is needed to see the scientific contradiction between Darwinian assessment of the functions of existence and a desire for dormancy. Evolution, by definition, requires sequential succession. The mere notion of lasting inactivity, or worse, degeneration, deterioration, and cultural erosion is repulsive to most. The idea of censorship fundamentally violates the only unarguable aspect of humanity, that the universe is dynamic, as are all things within it, and we are all part of the continuous motion. We are hardwired to press forward in every aspect of life, be it grandiose or petty. No free society would stand for the stifling suffocation and asphyxiation of its own advancement, innovation, and progression. Alas, consistent diversion maintains a fascia of activity, and when combined with factual falsification, it is easy to overlook information that one is not supposed to see. Acceptance is easier than rejection, allegiance is less challenging than resistance, and a slave that does not understand his predicament is an employee in his own eyes. Control, manipulation, and exploitation rely on a two-pillar system whereby factions oppose one another as a facade to detract attention from an underlying agenda. Often the discrepancy between the rival groups does not extend to great lengths. Heavy media propaganda initiates a false passion from the public, whilst what is really a singular group avoids the exposure of the triviality in their incongruities. There are two means to the same end, two paths to the same destination, and two sides to the same coin. These divisions are embedded with an agenda of misinformation, deception, and an underestimated or perhaps unrealized tool, which is distraction. There is a saying that any media is good media. Defamation and vilification become commendation and acclamation. Substantiation of these claims lies in the observation of the introduction of any third party. Any slander exchanged between the initial two parties can be struck back and forth with a racket of fierce enthusiasm and met with an explosion of publication. Yet when any assembly of individuals serving an alternative dogma weighs in, they are muffled, subdued, and muted. In other words, they are censored. Their presence is unnecessary in a system that thrives on feigned divergence. They are dismissed with terms such as crazy, ridiculous, ludicrous, preposterous, outrageous, outlandish, insensible, illogical, completely illegitimate, and irrelevant, and any other term in the lengthy lists of synonyms for the absurd. Quite frankly, absurdism dissects the root defense in the war of misinformation, propaganda, and censorship, whose goal is the proliferation and perpetuation of continual ignorance. The most effective elements of the two-party system is the conviction and the presentation of information, factual or otherwise. It is your right to ignore the tone of a report or correspondent, to question an account, to realize the inconsistencies in presentations that seemingly have equal relevance but are approached with greater or less fervor, vehemence, and vigor. You have a right to indifference and a lack of interest in who won the Stanley Cup, what the #1 movie in America is, and whether or not Justin Bieber has a girlfriend. Because if you cannot determine the significance of an event for yourself, the media, a less than awkward third leg of the two-party system, will be happy to present a conclusion for you with a misleading, dishonest, and deceptive tone. Maintaining objectivity is our right and obligation now and forever. So I'm sure there's a lot that I could explain or perhaps should explain, but for the sake of what are probably a series of dwindling attention spans, I will keep it short and just explain that when I say a two-party system, I don't mean to limit my argument to politics, but I also wanted to extend to the realization that whenever someone is on a Lady Gaga bandwagon versus Britney Spears or vice versa, what they're really doing is accrediting the music industry as a whole, and sometimes it's not about face value, it's about undertones and themes, and by giving any sort of accreditation to one individual or group over another, you're actually granting relevancy to the entire institution. So that's my information to just kind of watch out for that and always maintain objectivity. Whether it be the news or alternative news, you have the right to decide for yourself what's the truth and what isn't. And that's what I'll leave everyone with today. So thank you all for watching the video. Peace out.